Hi, everybody. Today we're jumping into 4.3, the psychology of social situations. This is a two-parter, and today we're just going to hit the smaller part. We're just looking at persuasion. Persuasion is simply convincing someone to change their thoughts, feelings, or actions through communication. Right? Your friends want to go to this beach, but you want to go to a different beach, so you're going to try to persuade each other of which beach to go to. You want to eat pizza, your friend wants to eat chicken. Now you got a battle on your hands. You got to persuade each other what you're going to eat, chicken or pizza. You're just like life is just a nonstop battle of trying to persuade other people of what you want to do, and other people are trying to persuade you of what they want to do. And it's just part of life. Persuasion. So there's a fancy term here called the elaboration likelihood model, and it just explains something very simple, that persuasion comes in two ways. There's just two types of persuasion, really. There's the central route of persuasion and the peripheral route of persuasion. Peripheral means outside of. All right, so the central route of persuasion is more about facts and logic, and the peripheral route of persuasion is about using things like emotion and things that have nothing to do with facts or logic. And one is more effective than the other. So this is the elaboration likelihood model. It's a weird name for this very simple theory that there's two types of persuasion. So again, the central route of persuasion is when people are convinced by the actual message, facts, and logic. They think carefully and analyze the arguments, and this works when the audience is motivated and able to pay attention. Good luck with that. So when you buy a new phone, you look at, you know, which phone should I buy? I'm looking at the price, I'm looking at the specs, which one's best for me? You're looking at the facts about the phone, like what specs does it have and like what kind of camera does it have, right? You're not being persuaded by anything else, you just want to buy the best product available. That would be the central route of persuasion. And this is extremely rare in life. 99% of the persuasion that you see, because most of the persuasion that you see is advertising, is the peripheral route of persuasion. This is when people are convinced by outside cues that aren't really about the message. So really has nothing to do with the phone. Like he has nothing to do with this phone. There's nothing, they're not connected at all. But through the peripheral route of persuasion, Samsung can get more people to buy this phone. Right? So the peripheral route of persuasion uses emotion, it uses celebrities, it uses feelings rather than like logic and facts. Right? And this is very effective. That's why 99% of all advertising that you see uses the peripheral route of persuasion. So they use songs, they use colors, they use comedy, they use celebrities, they use shock value, right? They want you to feel the product, not just tell you the facts about the product. Halo effect. This is a cognitive bias where a positive impression in one area, like attractiveness, leads to positive evaluations in other areas, influencing overall judgments. This is why attractive people get better jobs and they have more money. It's because employers think, oh, they're attractive, so they're probably going to be smarter and more hardworking. The halo effect. The halo is like the little thing that floats above an angel. And when you see an attractive person, when you see somebody who looks handsome or pretty, you're more likely to think that they are smarter and nicer than somebody who's ugly, right? When you see an ugly person, you're less likely to think that they are smart or that they are nice, right? This is the halo effect. It's a cognitive bias where one positive impression kind of bleeds into all of the other impressions of a person. Right? You can see that. This is why first impressions are so important, right? Because the way you look and the way that you behave on your first impression totally impacts how somebody is going to view you, maybe for a longer period of time. Here's a good example. And now more persuasion techniques. So this is not necessarily central or peripheral, but these are like more specific ways to persuade people, right? And we'll look at some examples of this in class, but you could probably think of some examples. Foot in the door technique. So back in the day, salesmen used to go door to door to people's houses to try to sell things, and they would put their foot in the door so that you wouldn't be able to close the door. And once they got their foot in the door, they were much more likely to make a sale. They could make more money, they could get you to buy stuff that you don't need. Foot in the door technique. And today, no one does that anymore. But what they'll do is give you like a free trial, right? You could have an Amazon or a Netflix account or a Spotify account, and they always give you the free trial. Here, just try it. Here, try it out free for a month. If you don't like it, you can cancel. And then no one does. So, foot in the door technique is when they just get you to sign up for something. It doesn't cost you anything at first, but it will cost you later. Foot in the door. It's very effective. All the companies are using this. Now, door in the face technique is a little bit different. Door in the face. This is when you try to persuade somebody by by saying a ridiculous offer first and then lowering the price uh, so that let's see, think of a good example. So you want to borrow money from your mom, right? You want to borrow some money, or you, I guess not borrow. You need money from your parents. You're like, you want $100 from your parents, okay? And then you say to your parents, "Mom, can I borrow $500?" And your mom's like, "No, that's ridiculous. You don't need $500." And then you're like, "All right, can I get 100 then?" And then your mom's like, "Yeah, of course. 100, that's not very much." Door in the face, right? You started with something ridiculous so you could work your way down to the price that you really wanted, right? And companies use this and restaurants use this. A lot of restaurants, they'll give you like the special menu, specials, and it will all be like super expensive dinner plates. Like their most expensive items will be on the specials list. So you see that first, and now everything else on the menu looks cheap. That's the door in the face technique. Got ya. Now you're going to spend more money at the restaurant because you saw the expensive stuff and you're not getting that. You're just getting the normally priced stuff, but you're going to get more of it because it's you think it's cheap when it isn't. This door in the face technique. The false consensus effect, one of my favorites. A cognitive bias where people overestimate how much others agree with their own beliefs, behaviors, and attitudes. So I think here's an example. I think healthcare should be free for everyone. And like, of course it should. I feel like everyone thinks that, but they don't. Most people don't think that at all. The false consensus effect. It feels like other people believe the same thing you believe, but they don't. Right? I think pineapple pizza is amazing. Why wouldn't you like pineapple pizza? Of course, pineapple goes well on pizza. This is like, doesn't everyone think that? This is the false consensus effect. No, not everyone thinks that, but it feels like everyone should think that. It's the false consensus effect. And finally, another banger. If you want to sound smart in life, you got to start using this term every day. Cognitive dissonance. Such a good term, and this will get you into the top universities if you start using this in daily life. A psychological discomfort you get when your actions don't match your beliefs or values. It's called cognitive dissonance. So I think McDonald's is a bad company, but I think their food is delicious. So I have a contradictory belief that I struggle with. That's cognitive dissonance. Healthy eating. I want to eat healthy, but I don't. So I feel bad. Oh, so I'm judging myself and feeling bad about my values and actions are different. So I feel bad. That's the cognitive dissonance. School's important, but I should study for a test. Plays video games all evening. Why did I waste my time? Now I feel guilty. This is cognitive dissonance. Goddess was like, your values and actions are clashing and they're not matching. It feels bad. It's cognitive dissonance. The last term here it's weirdly placed. It shouldn't be in these slides, but here it is. It's a type of job that psychologists do. It's called an industrial organizational psychologist. So along the way this year, you have to learn all the jobs of different psychologists, and this is kind of the first one that I'm springing on you. Industrial organizational psychologist. So it's a type of psychologists who work in any type of workplace, or let's take a factory for example, and their job is help the company, the factory owner, to make happier and more productive employees. So basically, every company on earth has industrial organizational psychologists because they help the company, they help the CEO or the factory owner make life easier and more enjoyable for the employees so that they're more productive and everybody makes more money. Industrial organizational psychologists. All right, that's a wrap. We're going to do some practice in class. Thank you for listening, if you were listening, and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.